Hey, Mike, you're live.
All
Welcome to
right.
the show, Mike.
Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. So tonight we're going to talk about AI focus and pro capture with Mike Amico. This is me. Hello, everybody. We apologize for the little mix-up where last night we had scheduled originally, which it wasn't. It's for tonight. I do appreciate everybody coming on. Tonight's going to be a little bit different. I'm actually going to do a presentation for you. Going to have Michelle in the background answering some questions. And I may come out of the presentation here and there to do something live on the camera. But I'm also going to go through some focusing and sequential shooting information before I get to the pro capture and the AI focus, only because it relates to everything. Everything relates to that focus, selecting the different size of your focus points, all of that. And I want to make sure that everybody's sort of on track with that, as well as how to use the AI focus and the pro capture. So I put together a little presentation for you, and I'm going to go ahead and present, but I'm going to be blind while I'm presenting. So Michelle will answer some questions there, and I'll pick up any I can throughout. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'm going to go ahead and present here. And I hope, by the way, that everybody's having a great night here. I just moved, so my life is out of boxes right now as I get myself set up and get going here. So, all right. So let's go ahead and present. So AI focus and pro capture. Most of you know me, Mike Amico. I'm a technical account manager here with OM System, and really enjoying the cameras. What I love about these cameras is the small size, the weight, and the fact that I can really enjoy nature when I'm out there shooting the birds or photographing the birds. It's a lot of fun, and they're like toys, and I have a lot of fun with these cameras. So let's talk about it. I'm going to go through some focus terminology. I'll do this really quick. We'll do some sequential shooting info and a little bit of camera function hints and tips. And again, this all relates to the AI focus and the pro capture mode. So we'll go ahead and get through this here. So let's talk about some focus terminology, some sequential shooting. So when you're talking about focusing, you're going to want to talk about single autofocus, continuous autofocus and tracking, and a little bit of manual focus, or maybe a blend of manual focus plus continuous auto, or any of the other three. These are the ones that you're mostly going to use probably when you're shooting birds, right? But with AI focus, you're really going to want to use continuous autofocus the most, and we'll talk about that as we go. When it comes to sequential shooting, one of the great things about the OM1 Mark II is that you have the capability of doing blackout-free sequential shooting with continuous autofocus, and that works with pro capture as well. So if you look down at the bottom there, you have your different sequential shooting settings. And sorry about that. And so you'll notice that the silent sequential shooting plus pro cap, the second one down, there's no blackout free. So that's basically your 5, 10, 15, 20 frames per second. You can select them in 5 frame per second increments. And that is with blackout, like you're seeing on the right. On the left, you'll see on the video that it's blackout free. It's great shooting like that. You miss nothing. It takes a little while getting used to it because your finger's on that shutter button and you're shooting. SH1 blackout free, SH2 blackout free, and that's including pro capture when you put it on. Now, what's the difference between SH1 and SH2? Sequential high 1, or SH1, you're up to 120 frames per second, and you're focusing once and metering once, and then you're shooting through your series of shots. SH2, or sequential high 2, you're actually able to shoot with metering and focus in between every shot. So a little more accurate, in my opinion, when you're shooting birds most of the time, because a lot of times the birds are coming at you or they're on different planes of focus. And so to me, it's a little more accurate. So I use personally SH2 for my birds, whether it's pro capture or just my sequential shooting. Now on the OM1 Mark II, you have the capability of doing 12.5 or 16.7 frames per second, as well as 25 and then 50 on most of the other or some of the other lenses. All right, I knew I could do that pretty quick. So let's get into some special camera function hints and tips, and then we'll go into the AI focus and the pro capture mode. So choosing a focus target. This is super important when you're using the AI bird focus. You have the capability in the camera of choosing a few different targets. One way to do it very quickly and very easily when you're in the field is to press the multi-selector button or the joystick on the back of the camera. You press it in to get the focus target to go to the center. You move it around, obviously, to move around the focus point. Makes it nice and easy. And you can hold it in and turn your rear dial and actually change which focus point you're using. So here you're seeing like a single focus point, a little bit larger of a focus point. You have your what I call the diamond. You have your full, all autofocus points. So it's nice and easy to do that by using that joystick and your rear dial. So very, very simple as far as choosing which focus point you want to use. Now, what a lot of people may not have played with or know how to do is that you can customize your autofocus target modes. And this is another thing that's very important when it comes to the AI bird focus. And I'll tell you why and show you why after. So by going into the camera menu and go into autofocus mode, and then going into the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth folder there, you go to autofocus target mode settings, and you're going to find this little menu here. And what you'll see is that whatever is checked off in the menu is what's going to show up in your super control panel when you go to select your target modes, or when you press the joystick, turn the dial, select your target modes. But you'll notice at the bottom, there's custom 1, custom 2, custom 3, and custom 4. You have the ability to create new targets. And you would do that because maybe you're shooting, I don't know, maybe you're not shooting birds, and maybe you're photographing cars and you want to have a small rectangle, or maybe you're photographing basketball players. You want to have a nice, thin, tall sort of a target. So it allows you to change targets. But one of the things you can do is possibly create a target that's maybe half of your target. So, or half of your screen. So now you have like zones, right? Where you can move that focus point around nice and quick with your joystick and go from one zone to the other zone, maybe left and right. So half and half, if that makes sense. And what that'll allow you to do is capture the bird. So when I show you the AI bird focus, you'll see what I mean about why this is important or could be important depending on your style of shooting. So again, the check mark indicates what is available during shooting. If I uncheck that mid one there, it won't show up in my camera at all. You have those 4 customizable modes, and that's the layout. So it shows you exactly what you're doing when you're creating these different modes. Very easy to create them. Go into custom 1 as an example, use your left and right and up and down arrows, and you can create how many parts of that grid you want to use to really create that mode up to the 1053 focus points. All right, so that's pretty easy to do. Let's get into autofocus sensitivity. A lot of people ask about this, and this only relates to continuous autofocus without tracking. So again, just like you're going to use with that AI bird focus, continuous autofocus with no tracking, and you have the continuous autofocus sensitivity. Now, many people think that because you have 0, -1, -2, +1, +2, that +2 has to be the best. But that's not really how this works. The autofocus sensitivity has different types of subjects that are suitable for the different settings here. So let's take a look. +2 would be if you're shooting subjects that are moving quick, maybe changing direction, maybe small birds, animals. +1, you're looking more for like subjects that are moving at a constant speed, maybe large birds, so like a bird in flight. 0 is standard. That's your out of the box. Boom, you're in 0. I leave mine there most of the time, but if you find that you're shooting a certain type of scenario all the time, and you do need it to be a little tighter on that, that's when you want to play with this, right? So +1 or -1, what have you. Especially when you're doing custom settings. So -1 is when you have an object that's only one, when it's the only object in the frame, again, like a bird in flight, something along those lines. And then -2 is when you lock on the subject, even when it's passing multiple subjects in front of each other. So this one, Two scenarios. If you get off of birds, I think about hockey players, right? I'm photographing a hockey game. I'm focused on one player. Another player goes in front of that player. I'm going to stay locked on that original player. Same thing with birds. You can think about ducks, right? You have ducks floating in a swamp or a pond, and another duck goes in front of the one that you're trying to focus on. And this is going to stay sticky and locked on that one first bird. So that's where this comes in. I have a little screen here that shows some examples of this. So, maybe like here you go at 0, it's kind of the general, subject matter. But -2, you have all these birds kind of flying in front of each other. -1, you have that single bird, right? Larger animal at +1, or +2, maybe a squirrel coming at you, kind of changing direction as it's coming. So this is where you could change that sensitivity. And again, only continuous autofocus, no tracking. Center priority is your autofocus point. You're prioritizing a center AF point. So what happens here is when you put the center priority on, when you have your different focus points, like let's say I use the 5 focus point, like the diamond, it's going to focus on that center point first. And if it can't grab focus, then it's going to go to the other points. So center priority is always going to try to focus on something in the center first. Now, this is another quick little tip before I get into the AI focus that I think is very important. So by default, out of the box, your function lever, a little switch on the back that you can make it on-off button or switch, or you can make it other things. This function lever will allow you to switch autofocus modes. So instead of having to go into your super control panel, switch out from continuous autofocus to single autofocus or manual or what have you, you can flip that function lever, and just like that, you're in single autofocus. So nice, easy way to switch your autofocus modes when you're in the field is by using the function lever on the back. Very, very easy to do. You just switch one of the positions and you change it in that super control panel and it'll stay there. So very, very easy by switching that lever. So I'll do that in the field. I'll have continuous autofocus when I'm shooting birds, and I'll flip it right to single autofocus. So if I have a perched bird or something along those lines, I can actually grab that pretty easily by doing that. One more before I get into the main subject, and that's the autofocus limiter. So a lot of people ask me what this is on the side of the lens, but it's also in the camera. Autofocus limiter is super important. Basically, we have one built into the camera, and I'm going to go through these here so I can talk about it, but it's also on your lenses. So if you have a 300 millimeter f4 Pro, you have a 150 to 400 Pro, you have the 150 to 600, you're going to see on the side of the lens this little focus limiter. Sometimes you might photograph a bird and it's just not grabbing, like the focus just isn't focusing and you can't figure out what's going on. Check that switch. What this does is it allows you to limit your focus area or your distance on the lens. So if I'm photographing dragonflies in front of me, I might want to go, like in this example, 1.3 to 6 meters. So I'm only focusing to 6 meters. It's not going to focus anywhere past that. 1.3 to infinity in this example on the 150 to 400 would allow me to focus the whole range of the lens. All them elements are moving, right? 6 meters to infinity, I'm only focusing 6 meters and out. I want birds that are out there. So the reason for this is theoretically you're going to get a faster focus lock, because you're concentrating those lens elements on specific areas to focus. So if I'm not photographing butterflies or birds in front of me, I'm going to put it on 6 meters to infinity and get it right out there shooting. And it's not going to grab a stick in front of me. And that's the reason for a focus limiter. Again, something to know on your camera, because you may or may not hit it, inadvertently, or if you're out in the field and you really want to play with this, just remember when you're using your focus limiter that you do have it turned on so that you can turn it off or change it when you're going on to your next adventure. All right, so let's talk about the AI focus. I know I'm going a little quick, but I want to get to some questions and I want to show some stuff here too as well. So AI focus is pretty fantastic in these cameras, and basically the technology was developed using deep learning technology. So it's pretty amazing, especially in the OM1 series cameras. You could do birds, planes, trains, automobiles, cats, dogs, and people, which is pretty cool. But we're going to talk about bird focus a little bit. Now, I've talked about continuous autofocus and things of that nature, and I'll get into that a little bit more as to how to set this up and everything. So let's talk about how you want to set up the AI focus for birds in your camera. And there's a couple of different ways depending on the camera. So we're going to talk mostly about OM1 series, so OM1, OM2. If you press your OK button and you go into your super control panel, or I call it the OK menu because you press OK to get to it, you're going to see that little icon over on the right there. It looks like a little gear. You're going to press the OK again when you highlight it, and it's going to bring you right into your button function menu in the camera. So yes, you can get to that from your menu, but it's a quick way from the super control panel to get to it. And what you can do from there is you can select any button that's a function button that you might want to change. In this example, we're showing the AEL button on the top of the camera, and showing how you can change that to your subject detection. Now, you could do this on either camera, but it allows you to put that subject detection on a button. So if you want to turn it on and off, it's nice and easy to turn on and off. When I'm out birding, I pretty much leave it on. I think the OM1 series has done a great job with the bird detection where I leave it on all the time. It's fantastic. But basically, once you select that function button and put it on there, now you can press it, and it'll turn it on and off, and you can press it and hold it in and turn the dial, and you can actually change through if you want to change from birds to cats to dogs or off. You could do that by pressing the button, holding it in, and turning your dial. So pretty easy to do. Now, in the OM1 Mark II, it's a little different because you can go right into the super control panel and get to your AI focus, which makes it really easy to just get right in there, press the button, change your focus to whatever you want. Again, humans, planes, trains, automobiles, birds, cats, dogs, and just let it fly. So easy way to set this up. I mean, of course, you can also do it on a custom function, have it set up there, and then when you're in your normal shooting modes, not have it set up. But very, very easy to customize, which we all love when we're out in the field. Now, some of the differences here, and this is what I wanted to get into about the continuous autofocus. Which one do you use, right? So tracking is theoretically, it's going to detect an object in the sky. You're going to focus on it, and it's going to follow that subject, right? That's your tracking. But what we're doing is we're actually using that bird AI autofocus to track the bird. It's automatically going to find that bird flying or perching or what have you. And you're going to focus on that with continuous autofocus and allow that tracking to be the bird AI, allow that to be the tracking. If you use tracking with it, it might work, but you're going to sort of fight with the feature, right? You're kind of like using tracking plus using tracking. So let that AI focus be your tracking, and then go with continuous autofocus to capture the bird. And that's what we recommend as a manufacturer. That's what I've been using for a few years on it, and it works really, really well. So I think it's a great advantage. Now, in the beginning, I talked about manual focus, and one of the things I like to do in the camera is set up continuous focus plus manual focus, and I can show you how to do that in a menu in a second. And what that does, it allows me to use manual focus with focus peaking, so that if I'm shooting a smaller bird like a warbler and they're going in and out of the branches, even though the OM1 Mark II has gotten a little more accurate, a little more sticky, when they go in the branches, you're not able to focus through branches, right? So you grab that focus ring and you can sort of go in and out of the bushes. So using that peaking and still have control of the focus system on your own while you're still in autofocus. It's pretty cool. Now, on the OM1 Mark II, it's a little different than the one because there's two types of AI focus selection that you can use. Out of the box, you're in subject detection priority or AI detection priority, but you can choose focus area priority. Now, I use subject detection. What this does is basically the focus area priority, the focus will follow your autofocus target. So if I'm moving that autofocus target around the frame, it's going to focus on that area where I'm at. But if you're using AI detection priority, it's going to follow that subject all the time. So I leave it there. That's how the OM1 works and original, and I think it works really well. So, but you can play around and see what works best for you. And I'll show you some of that in a minute when I'm done with this presentation. So Pro Capture, let's talk about that a little bit before I do some live stuff here. Pro capture is a lot of fun. So I don't get super technical with this stuff, you guys. I am probably the least tech because it's so fun, but then you can kind of get in your head a little bit, right? And then you start to wonder, like, am I doing this right? How does it work? What am I doing? What do I set? Let's talk about what you would use Pro Capture for and why you would use it. Because I'll tell you right now that I use it sparingly now. And that's because it depends on what you're shooting, right? If you use it all the time, you are going to eat up a lot of your card. And you may not need to because the cameras are so fast and accurate. So let's talk about what Pro Capture does. Pro Capture is going to record the photos before it happens, right? You're seeing this in a lot of cameras out there now, but we've really nailed it here. So it's kind of like getting back some of your reaction time, right? You have a little bit of a backup solution. So basically what happens is if I'm shooting let's say let's say I'm shooting a swallow, leaving a hole in a tree. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to shoot 50 pictures of a hole in a tree and no swallow. And, we're always like, the camera's fast enough. We're fast enough to see it. But when we hit that button, we just, boom, the reaction time's gone. We hit it too late. With Pro Capture, you can focus and meter on that hole in the tree. And when you see that bird leave, you let it go and then hit the button. And that's the hardest thing about it as well, is you have to remember that you have to let it go because you're capturing the frames already, and then you're going to actually record it. So I'll give you an example of that. We had a company meeting, and I was on stage trying to showcase Pro Capture, and I messed up because my reaction time wasn't correct. I was anticipating somebody getting hit in the head with a beach ball, right? A coworker, and I was supposed to catch the actual reaction, but I caught them getting hit in the head with a beach ball because I'm so used to just reacting to the actual event taking place. I didn't allow it to hit the head, bounce off, then press my shutter button all the way down. So you want to anticipate, let it happen. You're recording it, and then go ahead and record everything. Now, the way you set your Pro Capture settings are in Camera Menu 1, and you want to go to the 7th area, the 7th folder, and you go to Drive Mode. And again, you could do Pro Capture Sequential High 1 or SH1 or SH2, like I talked about before. That's why I wanted to get into that, which is Sequential High 2. It focuses in meters in between each shot. The max frames per second is going to define how many images you can shoot in a second, of course. And your pre-shutter frames are how many images are kept in the buffer when you half press the release. Now, the OM1 has almost doubled the buffer of the OM1 original. So it's one of the cool things where you're almost not going to lock up that buffer when you're doing things like Pro Capture. So it's very, very amazing camera. The one is fantastic. But when you are using a lot of frames, a high frame rate, it's easy to lock it up a little bit, and this one won't. It's amazing. So this is an example of the back of your screen you would see in your menu where you can select the pre-shutter frames. You have an image on the bottom that shows you 28, 22, and then 50 for a total. And it's showing you that you're going to do 28 shots when the shutter's pressed before the shutter, and you're going to hold it down for 22. So just gives you an idea of how you're doing it. So here's an example here of what you would see. So if I had the shutter half pressed, I'm focused and metered. I have this bird, doing its thing. I press it down fully about halfway through, hold it down, get some shots before and some shots after. Very, very cool. It's like going back in time. So I have a bonus here, but we're not going to do that. I'm going to get into some live stuff here. So what I want to do is stop sharing for a minute. How are we doing, Michelle, with our questions and answers? Are we doing pretty good? I see a few questions here that I could probably jump in really quick. I see Sarah has a question. Sarah Mason. What do I think I use for hummingbirds? And I'm assuming, because I could see, I'm assuming you're talking about either Pro Capture or none. And that really depends. Again, it's very, I think it's more of a personal preference, if you're going to use Pro Capture or not. I've used it, like, let's say, for instance, on heron, grabbing a fish. It's fantastic because you're anticipating that heron to go down. And the key with Pro Capture as well is you are going to use battery. because it's like doing video, right? You're buffering these images. It's almost like you're taking video. So you're holding down that shutter button, and you will be using battery power. So the best thing you could do on that is know your subject. Know when, again, know when the heron's going to go down and get that fish. You kind of sense, right? Or when a bird's going to take off in flight, right? You kind of know the signs of a bird taking off in flight. And that's when pro capture really comes in, because you know it's gonna really capture the shot. I think with hummingbirds, I would play with pro capture. Absolutely. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I'd use SH2 probably, and play around with that, high shutter speed for sure. And that would be a lot of fun. What I want to show you guys, sensitivity levels with hummingbirds. With that, I'd play around a little bit. Maybe go down to where you have that single bird, like a minus one, or leave it at rated 0, and see what you can do with that. I think with the hummingbirds, and I haven't shot them, to be honest, Sarah, so I would play, but definitely fast shutter speeds, like 4,000th of a second, 4,500th of a second. Definitely pretty quick. I want to show you guys something here. So what I'm going to do is turn on my camera. You got to bear with me for a second, but what I want to do is show you my screen here. And give me 1 second to just kind of set up here. But I'm going to turn on my iPad. And let's see, we got a blank screen for a second. And I'm going to show you a bird. Okay, there we go. There's a bird there. So what I want to show you is that the bird AI focus is on right now, right? So I have my focus point. I'm going to move it over here. So I have a pretty large target. I'm going to make that a little smaller. But notice how the AI focus is grabbing the bird, and I'm way over here with my focus. And it's sort of like a gray, right? Like the square around the bird is gray. But as soon as I touch any area of the bird, sorry, I'm moving my camera, touch any area of the bird with the focus, it lights up white. See that? It's a darker spot there. And the reason for that is it's finding the bird, but my focus point isn't there. So I want to hit that and really light it up so I know that I'm capturing the bird. So that's something to notice. I know sometimes people will say, well, I'm not getting the bird. It's not in focus. And of course, it's not going to be 100%, right? But you want to make sure your focus point is on that bird. So that's why I was talking about maybe zones with the size of your focus, where you would create a zone that's maybe half of the screen here. So you can go, left, boom, I got the bird. Right, I got the birds over here. So there's a couple ways to do it, or you can always do all. Then you're going to capture the bird there, right? So there's a few ways to do that, but just know that you want to be on that bird, to make sure that you're locking on. So that's something I definitely wanted to show. It works really well, and I can show you that example of that if I go in here. Let's see. See, and I train you guys, and then I can't remember anything. So, so, yep, I definitely forgot where I was. Autofocus. Here we go. Yeah, nice, Mike. That's a nice way to do a presentation. So, autofocus over here at the end. There's the target setting. So this is what I was talking about here, and there's a C1 right there. You can go right over. I can use my arrows on the back to go like this. Arrows here. And you can see where I'm like just about the size of the screen here. There we go. I have a little zone there. Hit OK. Check it off. Now watch this. Now you're seeing like you're seeing a dog. Sorry. Working with an iPad here, you guys. Let's bring that back up. Now you know the way to get into my iPad. So, all right. So basically, when I change my focus points now, there's that zone I just made. So I could basically go from zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. So it locks in those birds in those zones. Just another way to do it. So there's a lot of different ways to make that work. Now, of course, I press it in, it goes right to the center there. Oops, there we go. I'm working off a box, by the way, you guys. So that's sort of one of the things there. Now, another thing I talked about is autofocus plus manual focus, and I think that's something that's important. I turn that on in the camera, and then what I do, and I'm in the autofocus area of the menu, And then what I also do is I head over to the peaking section just to make sure I got peaking on, manual focus assist, peaking on. All right. I go to peaking settings and I use red, and most of the time it works pretty good. Intensity, I might do actually high intensity. So now what happens if I focus on this bird here and I touch the front focus ring, you see him highlight in red, and then I know he's in focus. Now that works great, like I said, when a bird's going in and out of branches and this AI focus is going nuts, and just kind of grab it and just touch it up with the peaking, take control of it, move it back and forth. It's a great way to sort of take control of that focus. As far as ProCap, that's going to be a hard one to really show, I think, because I wasn't really ready for it. Let's see. If I go into ProCap SH2, so I got ProCap SH2 on, right? If I go into my menu here and I want to go over to those settings for ProCap, so let's head over here to one. I want to go to sequential shooting settings right here. So almost the last page there, sequential shooting. I'm going to come over to SH2. That's what I'm using, right? Now I got it set for 16.7 frames per second. I got 20 pre-shutter frames, and my limiter's I'm at 30 there. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to change what I'm shooting. I got a video from OM here. Let's play this video. So you see those birds flying there? I want to capture that. So I'm just going to watch this video for a second. So let's do this. Let's go with an all frame here. Boom. And let's go back to Ben over here looking at these birds. And I'm going to watch it again. So here's Ben. Sorry, you got the reflection of my light there. There's those birds flying. There it is. So it's nice and quick, but how am I going to capture those birds going so fast? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take Ben there. He's waiting for the birds. I'm going to focus. I'm going to hit it. So now what's happening now, you can see the orange in the top left of my camera. It was blinking, right? What I did was I caught the last 20 frames there. So if I scroll through, see that? So where I thought I wouldn't maybe capture it, it's kind of cool. You can see the ghosting on the screen. But basically I got them last 20 frames and whatever I held after. And there he is. There's Ben about to shoot it. And there we go. So you're always going to capture that anticipation, that reaction of getting the shot, right? So let's see if we can do something like that again. Let's go back here. You can do it with anything. So here's this little shot here. There's an owl. There's Ben. I know it's a dark slide. There you go. There's those birds. So I'm anticipating, where are these birds going to come from? I'm going to focus now. I'm going to meet her. I'm already basically shooting. Now I'm going to hit it, hold it, done. It's right into the card. Terrible example, but it works. And there we go. You can see them birds moving there. There you go. You're going to capture that after it happened. You're always going to get it. It's a very, very cool system. It's really neat the way that it works. And it does a great job doing it. So I wanted to make sure you guys saw that, because it's hard to explain until you see it. But the thing with Pro Capture is that you really have to anticipate. You are going to eat up a lot of memory if you're holding down. So you want to sort of learn to anticipate the movement, know the subject, and kind of go from there. So, all right. So that's my AI and Pro Capture. I went really fast tonight. Yeah, I would say we refer to AI focus, Brandon. I would say that's pretty much the artificial intelligence, because what you're doing is you're loading all kinds of images into the camera, right? You're loading all these images of birds and heads and eyes, and same thing with cars, right? Fenders and quarter panels and helmets, and the camera's learning. It's learning as you go, right? It's picking up more and more of what it's going to look for. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it works really, really well. So it just gets better and better. Tim, yes, Tim Oliver, the customizable on the OM1 cameras. That's amazing, right? I never used to customize my cameras as much as I customize these cameras. Definitely. I'm just going through some of these questions here. Yeah, so Stephanie, with the shutter speed fast enough with the ISO way up, introduces a lot of graininess or a lot of noise, right? So that's inherent with any camera. So it doesn't matter the size of your sensor, what you're using. Noise lives in the dark areas. And when you crank up that shutter speed and you're in the dark or you're in a darker situation, you're definitely going to see more noise. So you want to keep it as low as you can, right? You want to have light. We are painting with light. But it is one of the detriments of birding too, right? Because your light's always different. So, but with the technology we have now, you can really clean a lot up. So you have to sort of know what your limits are, right? Know what your limits are on the camera, what you feel comfortable with, and how you want to shoot it. But also, when we get into birding, we get into the most expensive part of photography, which is the zooms. And so, you want to make sure you open up that lens. One of the things with 4/3 is you're able to open the lens up a lot more. You can shoot at, an f4 or an f5.6, not have to really stop it down because your depth of field is going to be a little greater than say a full frame camera, right? So you don't have to stop it down, so you can open it up, so you can keep the ISO a little bit down. But yeah, definitely when you crank it up, you're going to get a little noisier. The OM1 series is the best I've seen for this format so far, and that's the software that's out there is amazing now. So let's see, shut the shutter, say 30. Yeah, if you set the pre-shutter to 30, you need more. It's going to save those recent 30, and as you hold down the shutter, it's going to capture those last, say, 30 images and keep shooting till it fills that buffer. So you want to shoot and let go, or you'll start killing those 30, right? So, oh yeah, Chuck, that's a great question. How do you manage the pictures on your cards when doing ProCap? Yeah, I know. Thousands of pictures in a few hours. I know it's addicting and it's hard to manage, right? I don't know yet. I can't answer that. It's really easy to fill up a card with Pro Capture, that's for sure. And then you end up with a lot of the same image, right? And you don't know which one to pick. So I think it's a matter of just practice. It's really practicing, getting better and better at it, and sort of knowing when to quit, when to stop, when to go, right? Back button focus with Pro Capture. It's sort of possible and sort of not. And the reason is you still need to press that shutter button to get it to really lock in, because you're basically going to start it with the back button, but you're going to press the button to get it to go, because your back button is starting the focusing, right? You still have to meter and shoot. So I can sort of show you. I don't know what's going on with my iPad, but hold on one second here. Let me just bring this up. So I got to make sure my camera is in back button focus still, which it may or may not be. Yeah, let's see. Let's bring this up. Yeah, I'm in back button focus. So I have back button focus right now, and you can see that it shows the green dot in the left bottom area there. But when I press the shutter button, it starts the Pro Capture. So I'm focusing with the back button because that's what it is. But you have to press that shutter button still to start the Pro Capture, because then you're metering and you're going, right? You have to press that shutter halfway. So it's sort of like, I guess the answer is no. The back button focus definitely starts the focus, but it's not going to finalize that Pro Capture. So you still have to use that front shutter button. Let's see, shooting in P mode, custom settings for birds in P. Is there a way to open up the lens with a 100 to 400? Yeah, 100 to 400, you are 5 to 6.3. So, and it goes to 6.3 pretty quick when you start going out there. So you're pretty much at 6.3 most of the time, right? With the 100 to 400, because everybody wants the most reach we can get, right? With birds. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be up there with the ISO depending on your lighting situation. If you're shooting in the middle of the day, no problem. It starts getting towards evening, early morning. That 6.7 or 6.3 really gets gets up there with the ISO, but I wouldn't be afraid of the ISO as much as everybody is. I mean, if you've used any of the new software, it's unbelievable. But you want to look for light as well. Don't forget that we are photographers. We want to look for light. So when you grab that light coming in, you have that golden hour, or you have the light coming up in the morning, that nice soft light. You could do some damage with these cameras for sure. Larger single focus point. I think, Mindy, it really depends on your style, what you like to do. Sometimes I'll use all focus, shoot and let the AI focus capture the bird. But a lot of times I'll use a single or even a diamond to capture the bird. I like not the small single, but the one above it. It's a little bit bigger. I sort of like that. Yeah, you still have to have your focus point on the bird. So even though your bird focus, the question is single focus not needed with the bird focus? If you're talking about the focus point, you still have to have your point on the bird. So whether you're using single or whether you're using a multiple focus point, you still have to have it on the bird. Even though the bird focus is grabbing the bird and it's locking the bird in, you have to have your focus point on it to make sure that it's totally locked. Try using the all. If you select all the points, it'll lock on that bird. And that's probably the easiest way to use it as well. All right, guys. Hope I'm answering the questions okay and you guys are picking up some stuff. I mean, to me, if everybody leaves with just a little bit of knowledge, just something, I feel like I did my job. I'm a little scatterbrained from living out of a box this week, but it's all right. Bird targets. Let's see. I might have missed this earlier, but did you go over how to change bird targets if multiple are in the frame? I didn't, and I haven't done it yet. We can try it. I don't know if I have a picture that has multiple in it, but basically what you're going to do is, let me go in the camera here and show you at least how to set it up. All right. So in the camera, I can go to my super control panel here. And you go over to this button selection, brings you into your button function. And what you would do is you'd pick a button. So let's say I pick the ISO button here. I can go right in here. And this allows me to select this right here. So that's my subject detection, right? And then right here is, let's see, it's this one right here. Select and locked on a, there you go. So select and lock on a subject close to the selected autofocus target position, press down the button and turn the dial to select manually. So I grab that. So now that button becomes my button that I lock on and I turn the dial to select. So let me just look at that one more time. Oh, lock on. See that? Yeah. All right. Let me see if I can find a bird shot that maybe has multiple birds. Let's see here. And bear with me here, you guys, but I'm going to see if I can find something here with multiple birds. I don't know if I have something in this right here, but if I do, we can lock on one. We got one here, kind of, sort of. He's biting his foot. I think most of mine are not multiple, but let's try this. So what you would do, from what I gather, let's go ahead and focus here. What am I using here? I can't see. Okay, there we go. All right, just want to lock it up here. So if I press the button and, okay, so it locks on that bird. I got it. So now if I go over here, it's going to stay on that bird. Yep, that's what it's doing. Okay, so here's how it works. So if I go and find a bird, let's say I go to this bird over there, boom, and I press the button that I dedicated, it's going to lock on that bird. So it stays on that bird. So if I move over, it's not letting me. I mean, basically it's going to lock right on that bird. So no matter what I shoot, it's going to lock on that one bird. Of course, I move my camera here because I'm doing things with two hands. It's pretty interesting. Come on, Mike. Let me zoom out a little. Nice demo, right? It's hard to shoot on an iPad when you're... Let me go back to that little bird in the corner there. Come on, grab that guy over there. It's not finding him. I don't have a shot that has the multiple birds in it where it'll grab, but that's what you would do. You'd grab that, you'd lock on, and then what it does, it locks on that bird, and it should focus just on that bird. It's going to lock on that one. I just have a bad example of an image here. But that's basically what you're doing. So you want to go in that super control panel and you want to set it, but with a button function, and then you just lock on the bird that you want, and it'll stay on that bird. And that's how you do it. I haven't really used it that much, so it's sort of hard to specify. But that's generally how you at least set it and get it going. Starry Sky autofocus off of the subject, Marlene. Does Starry Sky autofocus on the OM1 work with Leica lenses? It should, because it's not really a lens specific thing. It's actually more of a that should work with those. Let's see. I think we're pretty good. Let's see. Anything I've missed here, you guys, that you want to have answered? Just looking through really quick to see if there's anything that, I think we're good. We got Michelle in the background, so she's always really good at answering some of these questions. So I'll say thanks, you guys. I mean, I think that, again, I'm a little rusty. It's been a little while since I've done one of these, so bear with me. I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate you guys coming tonight when it was accidentally set for last night. But it's always appreciated. It's always good to see you guys. So let's see. What do we got? Unrelated question from Jay. Well, let's see what we got, Jay. When I open my menu, I somehow set it to default to my. How do I change it so it opens where it was the last way it's supposed to? Oh, I got you. Okay. So when you go into the menu, it should automatically go to wherever you do it, I think, last. Let me double check here. Turn on my camera. Let me put a cap on it. Hold on. Bear with me. I got to talk into my mic. That is a great question, though. Let me go into the camera here. If I head into my menu, I believe... like you're in the My menu, so you're over here. Whoop, sorry. Right? So every time you go in the menu, you're right there in My. I believe that wherever you leave the menu, like if I'm in autofocus, when I go back in the menu, it's in autofocus. So wherever you leave it, it should go to that setting. So if I'm in basic shooting settings, number 1, I go back in the menu, it should be right in shooting settings. So that should work as far as where it is the last time. Let's see. Yep. Thank you, Tim. As far as the Panasonic 9mm with the Starry Sky, thanks. By the way, that 9mm is a fantastic lens. Really is. All right. What else we got, you guys? Bird AI Pro. Yep. Thank you. 90 macro. Yep. Absolutely. That 90 macro is fantastic as well. Yeah. Cool. All right. So Janie, do I edit the ProCap shots in camera or on their computer? I personally do it on the computer. I'll go in and I use Lightroom a lot. You can also use OM Workspace, whatever you like to use. I personally just go in, I'll take my time, sit in a cafe or something and just edit my photos. I haven't done much editing since April, so I have a bunch of stuff to catch up on. But I like to sit down and edit a little bit. I don't do a ton to my images. I just enjoy going in and sort of, touching them up and doing a few things. As far as the metering for bird photography, sort of personal preference, Chris. What metering do I recommend for bird photography? I've used the ESP, which is the all, metering. But I've also used spot metering. If it's a really dim day, it's really cloudy or what have you. There's not much going on, or the light's really, harsh. I might use spot metering and spot on the bird. Otherwise, I'll just use the ESP metering, and that seems to work pretty good. Let's see. Oh, 1 a.m. Geez, Italy. Go for it. Good night. I know, Sarah. I miss seeing you out in Indianapolis. Hopefully, I'll get to North Carolina at some point here. Best custom settings. So Mindy wants to know the best custom settings. I got 10 minutes if you guys want to see some custom settings. So Mindy, this one is for you. I'm gonna share my screen again. How's that? Let's see if I can do this for you. All right, let's see. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to share my screen, Michela, and do some custom settings for Mindy here. That was my bonus mode. What I do is I'll do like a birds in flight, maybe a pro capture, some other things, and I'll make these custom functions. So custom function 1, custom function 2. I'll make 1 birds in flight, 1 pro capture. And there's some of the settings I might set just generally. All target for birds in flight, maybe 2,500th of a second, just to kind of have a start. Maybe shutter priority or manual, whatever you prefer. Even aperture, bird focus, of course. Auto ISO is a start for me because I don't know what the light's going to be like, and I could change it. There's no wrong way. I mean, it's really what's comfortable for you, and then you bring in other settings. Pro capture, I might do something similar, but maybe have a smaller target, maybe a diamond or a small target point. Again, maybe 1,600th of a second, just kind of guessing. SH2, very basic, but it gets you into that mode with your custom setting, right? But here's the key. Once you set your custom functions, which is very easy to do, by the way, I'll show you in a minute if you want before we go. Then what I do is I go to the function buttons. And this is where you can really customize the camera. This is an example of a few things that I might set for custom functions or function buttons. And the cool thing is that my birds in flight, which is custom 1, I use the AEL button on the back of the camera as my custom 1. So you don't have to turn the dial on the top of the camera to change to, say, birds in flight or pro capture. You can make that custom 1 one of your function buttons, or custom 2 one of your function buttons. And this really helps to get to these settings on the fly when you're out there in the field. So I'll do that. Maybe I'll do AI detect autofocus on the button on top there, the plus minus button there, exposure comp. High res mode I leave on the record button. Live ND, and then for the OM12 owners, the live graduated neutral density, I put those on the front buttons because they're out of the way, they're easy to get to, and you don't have to get in the menu to go to these custom functions or these computational features. So that works really well. So really quick, because I know we're running out of time here. Let me stop my screen, and really quick, I'm going to show you how to set these custom functions. It's very, very easy. So let's say birds in flight. I'm in manual right now. I'll set my shutter speed to like 2,500 of a second. I'm in f5.6. I'll leave that. Let's see. I'm in ProCap 2, so I want to go to SH2 for my shooting. Not ProCap though. Just SH2. I might do actually. Let me do all because I'm doing birds in flight, so I want to make sure I'm capturing a bird flying, right? I'll leave my metering there. My bird focus is on. So let's say that's good. Auto ISO, I'm good. That's my birds in flight. So what I do now is I go into the menu. And the first thing that pops up in camera shooting menu 1 is custom mode. I hit OK. I go to custom 1. I assign it. Hit OK. I'm going to set it. And there you go. I set it. I do it twice to make sure. So now custom 1, if I change some of these settings that in here, let's go to single autofocus. Let's go heart. Let's change that. Okay. So if I go to custom 1, I'm back to 2,500 of a second, 5.6, got all my metering back. So it's very easy, right? And then what I was doing, like I said before, I can go into my button function and I can go right over here to AEL if I want. And I can come up here and go right to C1. And now that's my birds in flight. So now when I press that AEL, I turn C1 on and off. So nice and easy. It works really well. And that's sort of how I do it. So now you get a quick, easy tutorial on how to set your custom functions. And that's it. I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on board tonight and hanging out with us. It's been fun, and I hope you got something out of it for AI bird focus and pro capture as well. Shutter speed forward.